Have you ever caught yourself thinking about someone you haven't seen or heard from in years? Maybe it's been decades. You go about your life, doing what needs to be done, cooking your meals, folding the laundry, watching the evening news, and out of nowhere, a memory floats in. Their face, their laugh, the way they once said your name. You haven't spoken in ages. There's been no message, no letter, not even a rumor from a friend of a friend. But still, there they are, living quietly in the corners of your heart like they never left. At first, you might shake it off. Just a memory, you tell yourself. But then it happens again and again. And not just in the day, at night too. In dreams, in songs, in the way a breeze moves through the trees. And it makes you wonder, why does this person still live in me? Why now? Why still? As we grow older, we begin to notice that the loudest voices in our lives are often not the ones we hear with our ears. They're the ones we feel deep inside, quiet but persistent. They're not shouting. They're not texting, but they're still speaking. And sometimes silence isn't the absence of communication, it's a different kind of conversation. One that happens between souls. You see, the heart doesn't operate like a filing cabinet. It doesn't just close a folder and say, well, that's done. No, the heart remembers. Especially when a connection was real. Especially when a moment in time held a kind of magic you couldn't explain, not even back then. Maybe it was a great love. Maybe it was a friendship that burned too brightly and too fast. Maybe it was a kind word from someone who saw something in you when you didn't see it in yourself. And the strange thing is, we don't always choose who stays in our minds. Sometimes it's not the people we spoke to the most or saw every day. Sometimes it's the ones who left the deepest mark in the shortest time. One afternoon, one summer, one chance meeting that somehow tied your life to theirs in a way that refuses to unravel. Now, here's something I want you to hear. Just because the contact ended doesn't mean the connection did. There are some bonds that run too deep for time to erase. Some threads so finely woven into the fabric of your soul that no silence, not months, not years, can loosen them. It's tempting to think that if someone doesn't call, they don't care. That if they walked away, they've forgotten. But what if that's not always true? What if they're thinking of you too, in their quiet moments? What if their heart still echoes with your name? What if this connection that lingers in your mind isn't something you're imagining, but something real, alive, just unspoken? And I know what you might be thinking. But it's been so long. Shouldn't I be over this by now? But feelings don't come with expiration dates. Your soul isn't bound to a calendar. So here's a thought. What if your heart keeps remembering? Not because you're stuck, but because the connection was never ordinary to begin with. What if there was a kind of soul-to-soul recognition that no absence could erase? That's not weakness. That's not foolishness. That's being human. That's love in one of its most mysterious forms. And love, real love, isn't always loud. It doesn't always show up with flowers or grand gestures. Sometimes it's just the way your breath catches when you pass the old cafe where you once met, or the warmth in your chest when you hear the melody of your song on the radio, or the way your smile turns wistful when someone else says their name. And they don't even know what they've just stirred up inside you. I want to pause here and say something important. If you're still carrying someone in your mind, in your heart, you're not broken. You're not failing to move on. You're not behind. You're simply honoring a truth your soul once knew. And sometimes when we get older, we finally have the time and space to notice what we once buried. Life moves so quickly when we're raising children, working, rushing through days. But now, in this quieter season of life, some memories come back, not to haunt us, but to heal us. Maybe there's something unfinished there. Maybe it's a lesson. Maybe it's a blessing. Or maybe it's just a reminder that love doesn't have to be present to be powerful. You might ask, but why now? Why does this person return to my thoughts now? Because the soul has its own timing. And maybe your heart is ready to hear something it couldn't hear before. Maybe you're strong enough now to reflect without pain, to remember with gratitude, not grief. Or maybe your soul is just reaching out one more time to say thank you. You see, there's something beautiful in this kind of remembering. It means your heart still feels. It means your love was real. And no one can take that from you. So if today you're carrying a memory, a name, a face that won't go away, don't be ashamed. Don't push it down. Don't ask yourself, what's wrong with me? Ask instead, what is this trying to show me? Maybe it's just the soul whispering, that mattered. And sometimes that's all we need to know. You know, when we were younger, we were told that if someone stops calling, stops showing up, stops talking to you, well, that's the end. Move on. Let go. Don't look back. But the older we get, the more we realize that life doesn't work like that. Feelings don't have clean edges, and the people who mattered most, they don't always leave quietly. Sometimes their absence becomes its own kind of presence. It's like a space they once filled is still humming with their energy long after they're gone. You walk into a room, you hear a song, you see someone who vaguely resembles them, and for a moment, it's like they're back. Not in flesh, not in words, but in feeling. That kind of connection, that kind of echo, doesn't just come from habit. It comes from something deeper, something that goes beyond logic. There's a reason some people stay with us, mentally, emotionally, even when we've done everything we can to forget. It's because the mind doesn't forget what the soul remembers. And when someone has touched you in that soul-deep way, their imprint isn't just on your memory, it's in your energy. Now, I know that may sound abstract, but let me bring it home. Have you ever met someone and felt like you'd known them forever? Like your spirits recognized each other before your names were even exchanged? That's not your imagination. That's resonance. Energy meets energy, and the vibration clicks. Some call it fate. Some call it past lives. Some don't name it at all, they just know it when they feel it. And that's the kind of connection that doesn't dissolve just because time passes or words are never spoken again. In fact, sometimes, the strongest ties are the ones with no visible thread, just an invisible pull you can't explain. You think you've moved on. You're doing well. You're not waiting by the phone. You're not hoping for a message. But still, they come to you, in quiet moments, in dreams, in the stillness right before you fall asleep. It's in those moments that your soul does its whispering. Not to confuse you, not to hurt you, but to remind you that some bonds are written in a language beyond words. You don't need to talk every day to feel it. You don't need to see them again to know it was real. Now here's a truth we don't often say out loud. Just because someone isn't meant to stay forever doesn't mean they weren't meant to matter. And just because a chapter ends doesn't mean the story wasn't worth telling. Sometimes people come into your life to light a candle in a room you didn't even know was dark. And once it's lit, even if they leave, the room never feels the same. There's nothing weak about holding space in your heart for someone who's no longer physically in your life. That space doesn't mean you're stuck. It means you experienced something that shaped you. And the things that shape us, the people who leave those soul fingerprints, they stay, whether we want them to or not. And if you've been wondering if you're the only one who feels this way, let me reassure you, you're not alone. So many people over 60, 70, even 80 tell me they still think of someone they knew when they were 30 or 25 or even just a child. They remember not just what that person looked like, but how they made them feel, seen, heard, valued, alive. That's not weakness. That's memory doing what it does best, keeping the truth alive. You see, the world teaches us to move fast, to forget fast, to love and then leave. But the soul doesn't play by those rules. The soul keeps what is sacred. And sometimes, what it keeps isn't meant to be healed or erased. It's meant to be held, tenderly, gently, with gratitude. It's easy to doubt ourselves when the world doesn't talk about this. When we're told to let go, get over it, move on. But here's what I believe. Sometimes the fact that we can't forget is the evidence that what we felt was real. You don't forget people who never touched your heart. You don't dream of faces that didn't mean something. You don't ache for ghosts unless those ghosts once loved you in return, even if nothing was said out loud, even if the love was never confessed, even if life pulled you apart in every practical way. The soul remembers what the lips never said, and the body remembers what the mind tries to forget. That's just how we're wired. So if someone still lingers in your spirit, if their name still floats through your mind from time to time, don't be afraid of that. Don't label it weakness. Don't feel like you failed at moving on. Sometimes the presence of that memory is not a chain, but a blessing. A quiet companion for the road ahead. A reminder of who you once were and how deeply you once felt. And maybe, just maybe, they still think of you too. Because energy travels. And when two hearts were once tuned to the same frequency, there's always a chance that they're still resonating, even from afar, even in silence, even across the miles and the years. We don't always get the closure we want, but sometimes the most powerful connection needs no closure at all. It just becomes a part of who we are. You know, people don't talk much about what it means to carry someone in silence, to walk through the years with a heart that still whispers someone's name even when your lips never do. We all know how to talk about heartbreak when it happens, when it's fresh, when it's loud. But what about the quiet kind? The kind where nothing dramatic ever happened, but someone simply faded from your life and somehow never left your heart? It's the kind of love, or connection, or unfinished moment that doesn't ask for attention, but it never quite dies either. You might have loved them once. Or maybe you never even got the chance to say it. Maybe you parted ways politely. Or maybe life just got in the way. Different cities, different paths, other responsibilities. And now here you are, years later, older, wiser, but still thinking of them when you least expect it. And here's something I've come to believe deeply. Not every connection is meant to be understood. Some are simply meant to be honored. You don't need a final conversation or a goodbye wrapped in a perfect bow to know that something mattered. You don't need permission to feel something that lingers. The soul doesn't ask for approval before it remembers. It just does. When you think of them, whoever they are, don't judge yourself for it. Maybe it's a childhood friend who always made you feel like you belonged. Maybe it's a former love who awakened something in you you didn't know was there. Maybe it's someone who passed away and you never got the chance to say what was in your heart. That presence you feel in their absence, that's not a weakness. It's not a mistake. That's the echo of love, the residue of a moment that was real. And sometimes the most sacred love stories are the ones that no one else knows about. They live inside you like a song that never stops playing, quietly in the background. You don't need anyone to hear it for it to matter. It matters because it shaped you. It softened something in you. It reminded you of what it feels like to be alive, deeply, truly alive. There's something sacred about the kind of presence that exists without words. When someone can cross your mind and bring you peace, or warmth, or even tears, and you never once pick up the phone, that's not unfinished business. That's a spiritual bond. That's the language of the soul. You see, we often confuse closure with forgetting. But closure doesn't mean forgetting. Sometimes closure is just learning to live with the love, not needing to fix it, not needing to return to it, just letting it live where it belongs, in your heart. If you're one of those people who can't quite let go, I want to tell you something important. You're not broken. You're not too emotional. You're not clinging to the past in a foolish way. You are someone who has loved deeply, who still honors that love, even if life moved on. And that, my friend, is something to be proud of. Because in a world that moves so fast, that forgets so quickly, being someone who remembers, who feels, who cherishes, that's rare, that's powerful. Some people spend their whole lives looking for a connection that makes them feel what you once felt. And you? You had it. Even if it didn't last forever in time, it lasted forever in impact. So maybe today, instead of trying to forget, you can try something gentler. Try saying thank you to them, to the moment, to the version of yourself who lived it. Say thank you for the way it opened you, grew you, revealed something in you that maybe you never saw before. That kind of presence, wordless, timeless, quiet, is not something to run from. It's something to carry with dignity. Think of it like this. Some people are like chapters. Some are like footnotes. But every now and then, you meet someone who becomes part of your story's heartbeat. Their presence shaped the rhythm of your life. And even if the pages turned long ago, that beat still echoes. And maybe you're not meant to call them. Maybe reaching out wouldn't change a thing. Maybe silence is not a void, it's a message. Maybe your souls have said all they needed to say in a language that required no voice. You've lived long enough to know that love comes in many forms. It's not always romance. It's not always forever. But it's always real when it touches your spirit. So if you feel them in your dreams, or sense them when you walk by the place you once shared, take a breath and let that memory wrap around you like a soft shawl. Let it warm you just for a moment. Then carry on, knowing that you were part of something eternal. We spend so much time chasing closure, as if forgetting is a sign of healing. But maybe remembering, gently, without regret, is the true healing. Maybe it's enough to say, you were part of me. You always will be. And that's okay. Because in the end, it's not the noise or the drama that tells us something mattered. It's the quiet presence that lingers. It's the way someone lives in you, even when the world hasn't heard their name in years. That, my friend, is the voice of the soul. By the time we reach a certain age, we've collected so many memories. Some sharp and vivid, others faded like old photographs. But then there are a few, just a few, that never lose their color. They stay with us, untouched by time. And often they revolve around someone we haven't seen or spoken to in years. Maybe they disappeared quietly. Maybe you both agreed to part. Maybe they're no longer living. Yet somehow they still walk with you, silently, invisibly, but very much alive in the space between heartbeats. If that's something you've experienced, I want to tell you, you're not strange. You're not living in the past. You are simply human. And deeply human hearts carry what mattered most, even when the world has moved on. So what do you do with that kind of memory? What do you do with that presence you still feel, though time and silence have stretched so far between you? The answer isn't to push it away. The answer is to listen. Because sometimes, when someone lingers in your thoughts, especially at this point in life, it's not because you're meant to fix anything or chase anything. It's because your soul is trying to remind you of something important. Maybe about who you were when they came into your life. Maybe about the kind of love you're capable of. Maybe it's simply reminding you that you lived deeply and that connection was a gift. Even if it didn't last in the form you hoped for, it lasted in impact. There's something beautiful about carrying someone in silence, about not needing to tell the world, not needing to write a letter or post a tribute, just knowing in your own quiet way they mattered. They shaped a part of you. They softened a part of you. And even if they're not in your life anymore, they're still in your soul's story. For those of you who feel you can't forget someone, even after all these years, please hear this clearly. You don't have to. Forgetfulness is not a requirement for healing. Letting go doesn't always mean erasing. And remembering doesn't mean you're stuck. Sometimes remembering is just what love does when it has nowhere else to go. You can love someone from a distance. You can love someone in silence. You can love someone without needing a future with them. That's not weakness. That's maturity. That's grace. In fact, some of the strongest love is the kind that doesn't demand anything. It just exists, gently, faithfully, quietly. And if you're still thinking about someone after all this time, maybe it's because your story with them was written in a language deeper than conversation. Maybe it was written in how they made you feel safe, or seen, or simply more yourself. That kind of connection doesn't vanish with time. It becomes part of your emotional DNA. That's why it comes back when you're washing dishes or listening to music or watching the rain fall outside your window. It's not trying to disrupt your peace, it is peace. It's the reminder that something beautiful once existed and it left its trace in you. And maybe you're wondering, should I have reached out? Should I have said more? Could it have been different? But here's what I've learned. The soul doesn't ask those kinds of questions. That's the mind, always looking for answers and outcomes. The soul is more interested in presence, in experience, in what something felt like in the moment it was alive. You gave what you could. You felt what you felt. And whatever was meant to unfold has already woven itself into your life's tapestry. Some people come to stay. Others come to stir. Some arrive to wake up something in you that had been sleeping for years. And even when they leave, what they awakened doesn't disappear. It becomes part of you. So don't rush to shut the door on a memory just because it doesn't fit neatly into a timeline or a relationship status. Let it live. Let it breathe. Let it bless you in the quiet. And if today you find yourself thinking of someone you haven't thought about in a while, or maybe someone you think about every day, just close your eyes, take a breath, and say thank you. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the lessons. Thank you for the ache that reminds you how alive you once were, and still are. And then smile. Not because it's over, not because you've let go, but because you were given something real. And real love, real connection is never wasted. It leaves an imprint. It makes you better. It carries you into the person you are today. So if they're still in your mind, let them be. Let them be part of your silent strength, your hidden joy, your inner warmth. You don't need to understand it. You only need to feel it and honor it. Because some connections don't need contact to remain alive. They exist in the sacred silence between two souls who once truly saw each other. And sometimes that's enough. If this message touched something in you, take a moment to sit with it. Let your heart feel whatever it needs to feel. Without judgment, without pressure. And if this spoke to your soul, I invite you to share your story in the comments. You never know who might be quietly holding the same kind of memory, looking for someone who understands. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life if you'd like more moments of calm reflection like this. And remember, you're not alone in what you feel. You're not foolish for remembering. You are wise for loving the way you do. Here's to the beautiful ache of remembering, and here's to you for being strong enough to carry love even in silence.